Subconscious brain is powerful in the decision-making process. Why? Because it has a yes output and a no output. There is no maybe in the subconscious. People think that no is the enemy of yes in the world of sales. It isn't. Maybe is the enemy. Indecision is the enemy. Think back over your last 12 months. How many people nearly kind of thought about maybe did something? If just more of those people would have acted or could have acted quicker or would have got their act together in a shorter period of time, guess what? You'd have gone from being a good year to a great year, correct? If we can just talk to the part of indecision so we can accelerate the speed of decision, we can accelerate the rate of action, therefore we can accelerate the rate of transaction. It is that simple and it is that hard. Still confused about this subconscious brain thing? I'll give you some examples of where maybe it has served you. Does anybody remember like a familiar car ride, where they remember getting into the vehicle in the morning and then arriving at said destination and have no memory about how they actually got there? Subconscious brain took the drive. Like, don't worry, if anything unusual happened, conscious brain would grab the wheel, you'd be back in control in a nanosecond. But it's like our human autopilot. It serves us day in, day out, without us having to process every decision. Still confused about the subconscious brain? See it as nothing more than the little voice inside your head. Just a little voice inside your head. Now, if you're sat there right now thinking that you haven't got a little voice inside your head, well, that's the little voice telling you haven't got a little voice. We all have one. Learning to speak to other people's is what can give you a fair advantage in so many micro moments of influence, if you're prepared to be able to do the work. I am going to share some of the examples of the word choices with you today, but what happens when I write a book that small, that's that big, is we leave a lot out. One of the things that we leave out is our operating framework, is how to think about every conversation so you can have more influence. And it was interesting listening to the Q&A that just happened with Marshall and Corey. It was exciting, really, to think about how do you teach people to show up to conversations where they can dig deeper? How do you have an operating framework or a process that can allow you to peel back the layers so that you can get to the real heart of the issue? Funnily enough, in my body of work, we've done that. So I inserted another slide in today and thought I'd try and answer that question. Would that be useful? Sure. Thanks, both of you. See, if you want to be more influential in any given moment, whether this is acquiring a client, leading a team member, getting your kids to tidy the room, arranging where you want to go on your next vacation, same three ingredients apply. Always these same three ingredients creates an operating framework. The first of those ingredients is one of curiosity. Behind curiosity is empathy. Behind empathy is courage. These are three words you've heard before, yes? Nothing new there. But why those three words, and why in that precise, specific order? Well, we start from a position of curiosity because what is the alternative? The alternative to curiosity is certainty. If you show up to a conversation with a position of certainty, what do you create? Friction. How many of you have somebody in your life that is so sure of themselves that the more sure they are of themselves, the less sure you are in them? They're so certain of their point of view, you're like, really now, huh? Creates friction, correct? In every conversation, you, my friends, would like to insert content, correct? You want to put content into a conversation. But if you put content into a conversation before you've earned context, then what you did is you made a noisy environment noisier. Use curiosity to understand the context. See, the goal, purpose-setting conversations we learned about a second ago, aren't they curiosity-fueled conversations to understand the context of what somebody's done with their life and what they'd like to do next? It's that easy. Stay curious until you can see it as well as they see it. Stay curious until you can understand that this isn't you versus them, this is now you side by side. What's now happened is we've danced towards this position of empathy. We've danced there. We found ourselves there by accident. People talk about empathy all the time right now without really knowing what the word means. Best definition I've ever heard of the word empathy comes from a speaker author friend of mine by the name of John Acuff. And John Acuff describes empathy as to care about what the people you care about care about. I can't do better than that, so I'll borrow John's. Look at your communications towards your clients and see if you can realize who the person is that you care about the most. I was just checking in, I was circling back, we were founded in, we are proud of, we deliver, we offer. The hero of almost every story in every one of your communications is yourself. If you're in any doubt as who the most important person is in your life, remember the high school photo. What was the first face you looked for? That was you, right? If any of you are trying to go along, like, my kids are the most important person in my life, it's because they're yours. Still comes back to you, right? Which means that they are the most important person in their life. If we're looking to demonstrate empathy, what we're trying to be is we're trying to be relatable, side by side. If it's ever you versus them, then guess what? We've got a winner and a loser. I grew up around sales professionals and sales leaders that said, we've got to win the deal, win the client, win the sale, win the moment, win the business. If you win, what happens to the other person? They lose. We live in a world today where if there's a winner and a loser, there are two losers. That's what happens today. Either we both win or we both lose, which means we have to create a problem that lives outside the solution that's bigger, a monster we can go slay together. It's not us versus each other, it's both of us versus it. It's us versus not needing to pay significant sums of money out of a state into long-term care. It's us being able to live the life that we'd like to with our families and our children because what we have is we have enough free disposable liquidity to be able to do so with confidence and conviction. You know that nobody wants anything you're selling, correct? I've never met a 9-year-old that says, when I grow up, cannot wait till I'm buying my first annuity. Nobody wants what you're selling. They want the because. They want the because that's the other side of that. We need to demonstrate that if we care about the thing they care about, then guess what happens? Life gets easier. We're looking to be relatable. There's a button that exists inside the mind of every decision maker on the planet. It's a button that I call the show me that you know me button. The minute you trigger the show me that you know me button, now all of a sudden it's downhill. It's us versus it. We're on the same team, we're on the same side, pulling in the same direction. Make sense? How do we get to that position of empathy? We stay curious for long enough to be able to get there. We naturally find ourselves in the position of empathy. I'm going to make something super simple for you. Here's a framework that will help you influence almost any decision in front of anybody. Is never, ever, 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 ever ask somebody to do something unless you can say these words first. The words I'd like you to say first are the words, because of the fact that you said blank, blank, and blank, then for those reasons, I'd recommend blank, blank, and blank. It's very hard for people to argue with themselves. Now, that is a remarkable, simple framework to deliver in theory. It's a much harder framework to deliver in practice. Why? Because you have to collect the blanks. Strategic curiosity will get you there. Then we demonstrate empathy, then we're relatable. Here's something I find fascinating about this industry in particular. I've met thousands and thousands and thousands of financial services professionals that on their website dare to call themselves trusted advisors to their clients. And I'm like, I don't think that is something you call yourself. Right? Isn't that something that somebody else calls you? There's a different way to get to that label. It's not something that we project. It's something that somebody projects upon us once they say, I see you as a trusted advisor to my life, my family, my organization. How do you get to trust? Everybody says they want to be more trusted. Well, think of this. Who in this room has somebody that could reach out to them today, tomorrow, and ask for a favor this weekend, and before they've got to the end of the ask, you're like, yeah, sure, no worries, I got you. And then you have other people in your life that could ask you the exact same question to do the exact same thing at the exact same time on the exact same day, and you're like, me? This weekend? Really? And you're finding reasons why you can't. The difference in those two scenarios is that when you're heck yes, the relationship is built on trust. It's built on reciprocity, not quid pro quo, but as in you get me, I get you. We understand why I'm the right person to be asked for this, I got you. We say yes unequivocally. How do we get to that? How do we get to that position of trust? Well, the math equation is curiosity plus empathy. Once we've got that, the ask is now easy. Now we're looking at courage, but not the courage to climb a mountain, go to war, jump out of an airplane. Just the courage to ask big, bold questions. The courage to invite people to take action. Because you know, if you do not ask, you do not get, right? You cannot drive an action if you don't ask for an action. Your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in life. Full stop. Yet if you just run around asking for the things that you want in life, what are you? Pushy, obnoxious, sleazy, self-serving. If you take every moment of influence and you start curious until you understand context, dance towards a position of empathy so you see the world through their eyes, so it's you versus it as opposed to you versus them, and then have the courage to ask people to take big, bold actions, what are you now? Helpful, kind, consultative, caring, on the same side. It really is that easy and that hard.